Good evening to members of the media. Good evening to Barbados. Good evening to members of the National Council, members of the Parliamentary Party. As you know, earlier this week, the Speaker of the House received a letter from Mr. Edmund Hinkson, my dear friend and brother, a Member of Parliament for St. James North, indicating his intention to resign as the Member of Parliament for St. James North effective tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. The House of Assembly this afternoon would have met to formally verify and validate that the letter was in truth and in fact an accurate copy of his intention, as you would have heard the Speaker indicate to the Parliament, pursuant to the standing orders. That is a requirement, and that facilitates the sending of the address to Her Excellency the President of Barbados, such that the seat will be declared vacant as of tomorrow, subsequent to 10 o'clock. This party has a long and proud tradition of doing its business in accordance with its constitution. And we don't use the word constitution glibly or refer to it just as an apostrophe. Pursuant to Section 72H of the Barbados Labour Party's constitution, the National Council of the Barbados Labour Party this evening would have agreed that the party leader would have the opportunity to be able, in the circumstances, to determine the candidate. But since taking this office as leader, I have on every occasion where I have been given the opportunity to make a singular decision in my own discretion, I have chosen always to be able to consult, whether it is in the passage of legislation on the appointment of judges, whether it is in the passage of legislation and the change in the Constitution on the appointment of a head of state, or whether it is in the appointment of a candidate to be chosen to run in the by-election that is now going to be before us, pursuant to the seat being declared vacant tomorrow. And after consultation with the members of the National Council, I can say clearly that there was not a single exception in the room or vote opposing. Or in other words, it was super unanimous, if there is such a thing, for Mr. Chad Blackman to be the candidate for the Barbados Labour Party, representing the party in the constituency of St. James North once a vacancy is declared tomorrow morning. Mr. Blackman has had a distinguished record as a member of this party since 18 years old. He has come through the ranks. He has served at all levels. He has been a CARICOM youth ambassador. He has distinguished himself professionally as well as an attorney at law, working not just in this country but outside of this country before being pressed into public service. He has, on the occasion of the assumption of office by the Barbados Labour Party, he was appointed as our ambassador to Geneva and served there with distinction. And after his term of office there as ambassador, he was appointed to work with the International Labour Organization as a consultant with responsibility for the Americas, ensuring that he kept his interests in the advancement of labor and people across this hemisphere, of which Barbados is just but a small member. When I needed to be able to make changes to the cabinet last year in January, I called upon Mr. Blackman and his boss, the Director General of the ILO, and at short notice he was released, and I was therefore able to include him in the cabinet of Barbados. And recently, as you know, he has been shifted to Minister of Education. It is therefore with a great deal of pride that I can confirm, not just to the people of St. James North, but to the public of Barbados, that we are fully and completely happy and unified in the determination of this party to have Mr. Blackman, whose passion and commitment to this party and to representational politics has been self-evident to all. There are those who would have heard him deliver the Grantley Adams lecture a few years ago, and there are those who would have followed his career and therefore would see why we believe that the people of St. James North would readily want to endorse him. Prior to this evening, the General Secretary, the Chairman, and myself would have met with, obviously, the members of the St. James North Executive of the Barbados Labour Party, not notionally, but in real terms, with real people. And in that meeting, it became clear that there is complete support in that branch executive as well for Chad, and therefore when we came to National Council this evening, it was an easy task. I want to say that this process is not by accident. An institution needs to know how to manage its affairs and how to be able to ensure that it renews and refreshes itself. And I want to thank Eddie for working on behalf of the people of St. James North for the course of the last 12 years. I think many speeches were made in Parliament this evening on the motion for the adjournment, and I had the pleasure to lead off those speeches. I think that virtually everyone spoke, which also is an indication, Eddie, of the high regard in which your colleagues hold you. I think that your record of service, and I will have many opportunities to say so at some point in the next 90 days, but your record of service has not just simply been to the Barbados Labour Party, it has been to Barbados. You have served, and this is the point that I would want to make to young people who want to offer themselves for service in this country. You would have worked with the Lions Club, and many of us remember you, as I said in Parliament this evening, with that typical waistcoat that the Lions, the yellow and purple it is, that the Lions use as they do service across the country. You would have worked with the Salvation Army, you would have worked with the St. John's Ambulance Brigade, and you have, more than anything else, been associated with your strong advocacy and promotion of rights for persons who have been disabled in this country and for whom they themselves have little voice and little opportunity to make their case known. I want to thank you publicly for that, but I also want to thank you for allowing this party to do its business in a dignified manner. And we take these things for granted, but in a country where the other political party is not and has not been able to resolve its business in a dignified manner, to give a calm assurance to the public of Barbados, it is even all the more important that we, as a political party going into its, just celebrating in fact, its 87th year, can so do and acquit itself. That is not to say that we didn't have problems in our past, we have. But the reality is that where we are now, we've worked hard to bring discipline, to have an inclusive and transparent framework, and to ensure that we recognize that, as you said in your statement on Tuesday, that politics is a relay race, and that it is not a race that you win on your own, and that the process of representation is a continuum, and that at this stage, having spent 32 years as a member of this party, 36 years in the service that you have done, 12 years as a member of Parliament for St. James North, that you would now want the opportunity to be able to move to a different space and a different place in order to be able to ensure that the party also can continue to bring the high level of representation to the people of St. James North to which they've been accustomed. It is no secret that this is a constituency that has favored the Labour Party in its past. We lost it once in 1986, but we do not take anything for granted. And anyone who knows me knows that I have always said that every ballot box is open with 0 ballots in it. And therefore, one has to go out there and work hard and earn the trust of the people who you want to represent. And I have every confidence that this young man, I was going to say young big man, will do all that he has to do to earn that confidence. It is no secret that, Eddie, you have been walking with him, and that I suspect that that is why the branch became very enamored with him from an early stage. But drunk or sober, do mind your business and do things in accordance with the Constitution. And therefore, it would have been inappropriate for us to be able to speak to the country before the formalities of the Council and the Constitution have been complied with. I'd like to invite Eddie for you to say a few words before we go on, and I'd like thereafter to ask the man of the moment who will carry the standard for this party in a way that I think will impress all of us, but in particular the residents and constituents of St. James North, to speak thereafter. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Welcome, of course, to the media, party colleagues and comrades. It is what I've been a member of this National Council since 1994, having joined this party in 1993, right after the 1994 election. I would have been elected to represent St. James South on this council, and then St. Andrew, and then I got in on my own right and third vice chairman, public relations officer. This has been home to me for many, many years. What you have done tonight in ratifying the nomination of Chad to be our candidate in the upcoming by-election in St. James North has been done with nobility, with dignity, in accordance with the constitution of our party. I can tell you, as I said, and I'm now saying it in the presence of the media, Chad has my full confidence, my full support. During the 2022 elections, you will recall we had a few mass meetings up in the Bell. We were still under COVID, at least certainly threat, and Chad was back to assist us in that election. I approached him. I told him, look, Chad, we have had, a few of us have had a conversation, members of Parliament, on you, and there's been unanimous agreement that by next election, or certainly you should be contesting next election to get into this elected Parliament. I will not be running again. This will be my last time running, contesting a seat, and I think that St. James North is a fertile seat for you. It's a seat that I think you will do very well in. St. James North people are people I believe that you will mix very well with, and who will you will have a tremendous relationship with. And you know, if you wish to take over the seat from me, let me know. Chad, of course, at that time was still our ambassador in Geneva, where he did superbly well. He was not only ambassador to Geneva, I think he was ambassador for about eight countries or 9 at the time. And obviously Geneva has a lot of United Nations agencies, so he was serving on those agencies too. I think he chaired one. Chaired one of the agencies as well. Chad didn't commit at that time. Like I said, he was still our ambassador in Geneva. He then went on and worked for a little while at the ILO as advisor to the chief. But of course, Prime Minister recalled him to Barbados last year, January. He called me up within 2 weeks of his return here and said, look, Eddie, I'm interested in this seat. We met a night secretly. As I said just now in Parliament, all the new candidates I would normally meet with, the females I would meet with in the day. And this is back in 2018 I'm talking about, because you know how it is. My name is easy to call, so I would invite them to lunch. The women, and all of them said this in Parliament today. I had lunch, took them to lunch, the females, but the men, of course, in the night we had drinks somewhere, different places. Sometimes the men came at my house. Kurt would have spoken about times he came at my house when I was persuading him to jump in the ring. A couple of the new candidates, I went at their house. And we met a Friday night, and, you know, Chad, we looked each other in the eye, and Chad said, look, Eddie, I will do good by the people of St. James North. You could be rest assured you have my word on this. I said, okay, Chad. We will move together. Every time I go out now in the constituency, I will invite you to come. So the first thing is taking you around to know the boundaries, know where the boundaries of a constituency are. That's the first start. So last weekend, when I understand that the Democratic Labour Party returned to St. James North for the first time since February 2013 when I won the seat. They'd been absent from St. James North, believe you me, for 12 years, 2 months. So they returned there. I understand they went to a certain place. They would not have known at the start of the day where that place was. And somebody would have had to take them there. And having been there, quite honestly, as I told comrade Colin, my, who we have worked well together, that where they went, they would not have known whether, quite honestly, their votes in St. Peter or in St. James North. But be that as it may. So I think, Chad, it took us 2 days, two days and two afternoons to go all around the constituency, stopping, introducing him to key people in each district, saying, well, look, this is the person who wishes to run. I believe, he will be a good person for you. He was then, of course, Minister of Economic Affairs. And then, of course, going into Pacific districts, I took him all the time. When Beryl passed, I messaged Chad when I had internet early o'clock and said, Chad, when we get the all clear to go out, you will find yourself by my house. And I will be taking you out first. We're going down Western, where I hear the whales, boys surfing, and the whales down Western. The old people tell you, they never saw waves like that in all their life. So we first went down Western, and the fellas down there, they love Chad. We went in Trench, where as Santia knows, boy, that has, you got to be sure about Trench. We went there. We went in Lower Carlton as well, and we went in Roadview, which has a problem, and which I must tell you, Chad, as Minister of Economic Affairs, would have finalized a loan for us. I think it is $50 million. World Bank loan. IADB, I think it was in Dominican Republic about this time last year. And some of that money will go into shoring up, buttressing the coastal in Roadview. And, subsequently, of course, we go out Sign Hill again, where Chad is extremely popular. We went out there and we went all about. Culminating, of course, in a fun day, family fun day, which we had in January. And, joint fun day, because I told Chad, look, we got to hold something joint, bringing everybody together, the whole constituency, cricket match, everything. So, look, the other side, I see is saying how, they had a contest for a candidate. Look, there's full endorsement among the people of St. James North, the BLP people of St. James North, the members of the branch for Chad. Prime Minister would have spoken about meeting that she would have chaired last week. Before that, the night before, we would have called, and Chad would tell you that in less than 24 hours, we had a full meeting. Constituency office was overcrowded, people out in the yard, over 50 people there at very short notice. Some I only told in the morning, look, come by the office 6:30 that evening. Full endorsement. Everybody agreed to Chad. And I certainly will give him full support. As the Prime Minister said, St. James North is a seat this party has only lost once in 75 years. From 1951, when this party, Sir Grantley Herbert Adams, first person there, gave people of this color, of the color of everybody in this room, a vote based on citizenship of Barbados and not on property or wealth. St. James North has stood firm with the Barbados Labour Party, except for one time. In fact, the slogan, I understand, in 1951 was "Long Gone," because the then sitting members of Parliament were all of the white upper class, economic class, and the slogan was "One Gone." And because our candidate was going to win that seat, it has been so. There's no certainty in life, though. So it needs all hands on deck to assist in one way or another. Can't take anything for granted. The other side will be bluffing. They will be talking foolishness. I heard them in the press conference yesterday, and I was quite honestly appalled. But this is not a circus. You know, the other side believes that politics is a circus, an entertainment. I always knew that politics was serious business because it is about people's lives. And I'm satisfied that Chad is someone who is people-centered, who cares about people. He was minister of an economic ministry. He's now minister of a social ministry. And every time we go out, people would say, well, look, you know, I've heard about you. I'm glad to meet you. I've heard about your leadership qualities, your leadership potential. And look, it'll be about being part of a team. Leadership is also about being part of a team. And of course, the Prime Minister has spoken about how her consultation process, even in situations where the Constitution gave her, and the Constitution of Barbados I'm talking about now, gave her full powers to appoint judges, etc. As we know, a Prime Minister of Barbados has since the constitutional amendments in 1974. And so Chad is seen as part of the leadership, political leadership of this party, this country. You've heard that he was president of the Young Socialists. He was CARICOM Youth Ambassador. He's come through the ranks. And we look forward, of course, to securing St. James North seat and it continuing to be part of the Barbados Labour Party parliamentary team when the Prime Minister decides that a by-election will be held. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. And to the man of the moment.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, Comrade Leader. Good evening, all. Let me say how humbled I am to have been formally ratified unanimously by the highest arm of the Barbados Labour Party, a party that I have been a member from the age of 18. I am 42, so you can do the math. It's a very long time. Why is it humbling for me? This party, as we all know, is the oldest party in this country, the oldest party in the English-speaking Caribbean. And to be a part of it at a time when the world is going through its changes, and this party is anchored in the roots of labor, making sure that people are at the center of our development. I am eternally humbled to now represent and to take over from Edmund in St. James North. And let me say a few things. This journey for me is really one now of a continuation. What do I mean by that? I started my journey of representation at 18 when I was parish ambassador for Christchurch. I then went on to be CARICOM Youth Ambassador, President of the Barbados Youth Development Council, the Youth Council, Commonwealth Youth Ambassador. And those years of doing service, but at the level of volunteerism, allowed me to understand the rudiments of service. Service isn't just about title. You know, the Bible says, to whom much is given what? Much is expected. And therefore, it allowed for me at an early age to understand that if you want to be a leader, you have to serve. And that is something that I constantly live by. And therefore, I place myself before the people of St. James North, a constituency that I've fallen in love with, particularly over the last year, I must tell you. Every day, last year particularly, when I would leave economic affairs or cabinet, I would head straight into the constituency. But what it did, it allowed not just to build a relationship with the people, but I got to understand in a very intricate and real way, not just what are the challenges, but what are the opportunities that people want to see. And I believe and I know that my experiences throughout the years allows for me to take their ideas and aspirations and put them in a way that we can now build forward. St. James North has a very unique position. And what do I mean? It is both a coastal constituency, rural and urban. It has a tourism an urban corridor. It is an agricultural belt as well. And over the next, within the next 90 days, let me put it that way, you'll be hearing from the Barbados Labour Party platform as to what is the vision of the future of St. James North and how do we ensure that every aspect of the community and the constituency can be a part and parcel of the future of the constituency's development. There's no secret that I have a passion for young people. I work very well with our young people, but equally, there's a lot of wisdom in the older aspect of the community, and I too work very well with them. So the idea is to really harness the skills and talents that we have within the constituency to build out a new model for what I believe Barbados can look like. Because why? It really is a microcosm of the rest of the country. But outside of what I just mentioned, I also feel a sense of humility, and I wish you were here. The Prime Minister talks about it all the time, and Eddie, but my grandfather represented 1/5 of the constituency. Of course, St. Peter at the time, he was Member of Parliament, Burden Hines. But for his great-grandson to now be tasked to represent the constituency, of which he was there, of course, in his party, I am eternally grateful and humble to you, Madam Leader, and Eddie, and to General Secretary, the Chair, and to all my comrades in this party. Now, let me say this. I want to make a commitment to the people of St. James North of service. It wouldn't always be easy, but I make myself available to you. Feel free not just to call me, but to come up to me, which you're already doing, because I believe that representation also means throwing yourself at the will of the people, never running away from people. People say, Chad boy, anytime we call you, you answer the phone. That is my style of service. It's not even about politics. You must make yourself available to people. So I just want to say thank you very much to the party, but over the coming days and weeks, months, you'll be hearing more as to the vision that I have and the party has for the constituency of St. James North. And once again, thank you very much, Comrade Leader.
And of course, we thank the President of St. James North and the other members from St. James North who are with us today. Are there any questions?
Just one question, Madam Prime Minister. Given the fact that there is still a 90-day window, and given the fact that there is a 90-day window by which you can call the by-election, and given the fact that St. James North is considered a stronghold of the Barbados Labour Party, and I'm sure that the interest in representing that constituency would have been great among your party membership. One might question, or one might ask the question, shouldn't the branch process have been allowed to play out?
But the branch process did play out. I think you heard me say that I met with the branch executive along with the chairman and the general secretary. You heard Edmund Hinkson say that he has been working and have exposed Chad for how long? Over a year?
That's correct.
So that the party is very, very clear. And unlike others who you've had the opportunity to hear from in recent days, who have not been able to cite exactly which part of the Constitution and what part of the process and all of the other things, my dear friend, you cannot want greater unanimity. But I will simply say this to you. When I became a young lawyer, there was a man called Jack Deere. You know the song Jack by Gabby? And Jack Deere called me in his office and he says, your father may be a lawyer, but let me advise you of one thing. Don't let anybody draw you into anything. You argue a case once. in court. Meet us on the day when this case will be argued by the people of St. James North. And more to the point, the General Secretary can confirm that while we have received letters from other persons to be considered for nominations, there was not a single letter. And the fact that Eddie was leaving, he didn't exactly keep to himself. For the last 4 months, I think everybody in Barbados knew, which is why I'm a little surprised that the Democratic Labour Party only entered the constituency last weekend.
Has to ask you to tell us when the date is, but do you have
there's another
could you
clip
close
show-
it as a time frame or you've been looking at?
The law allows me 90 days. There's the approach that former Prime Minister Stewart took, which absorbed, and he used virtually all of the 90 days when Prime Minister Thompson passed. There's the approach that I took, where I used 6 weeks, I believe, or 7 weeks. 7 weeks. When the then Member of Parliament for St. George North passed. So that all passed from Parliament, not from life. So that all options are open. I would only tell you that I have to have a conversation with the Prime Minister. I'm here as party leader, and I'm not sure what the Prime Minister will say when the party leader has a conversation with them. Any other questions? Let me just say, and I want to say this because we are in the house that Grantley built. And I mean this sincerely. And if you look on this wall, you see the leaders of this party. 1950 was a special year, and I hope that the media, even outside of all that we're doing now, will recognize that this year represents the 75th anniversary of the right to vote for all persons without reference to property or without reference to wealth. We take these things for granted. I am chair of CARICOM now, and we all know that in Haiti, for example, the biggest issue is whether there will be sufficient stability to be able to have an election at the soonest possible time. We take it for granted when we saw, in spite of seeing that in South Africa, that which Barbadians secured in 1950 under the leadership of Grantley Herbert Adams was only secured for South Africans in 1994. This is the 75th anniversary in this year of our Lord of the right to vote for Barbadians. It was first given to all persons over the age of 21, and it was then later reduced to the age of 18. And that is why I refer to Grantley Herbert Adams as the father of democracy. Errol Barrow is the father of independence. Grantley Herbert Adams is the father of democracy. And in a very real sense, it would have been difficult for us to become an independent nation if the parliament that existed in earlier decades continued to represent a very small set of persons in this country who would have preferred to remain tied to the mother country. Mr. Barrow was able to talk about not loitering on colonial premises with ease because Grantley Herbert Adams had already ensured that Barbadians would have the right to vote first over the age of 21, and then it was changed, as I said, to the age of 18. I think it is important, especially given the challenges of the world that we live in today with respect to democracy, that the media and the party and the different institutions in this country find a way of educating young Barbadians so that we do not take for granted that which we have. And I don't know how many different ways to say it, largely because of what we are seeing unfolding all across the world. Lest we forget, we need to remind each other. And I'm reminding as much the members of this party as I am the country of Barbados through you, the media of Barbados. So with those few words, on to the process of readying ourselves for whatever date in the next 90 days shall be determined as the appropriate time. I will say this, and this is more for public education. Senator Blackman is a senator, and I think that at an appropriate time you will have to resign from the Senate, which means that he will also have to resign from cabinet for the period of time during which an election will take place. And I say that for the avoidance of mischief, because there are those now who would wish to create fake news and create mischief in this country. And I've learned to take in front before it allows anybody to take it. And therefore, when that happens, in order to facilitate his participation in the election, he will do so not as a senator and not as a minister, but as Chad Blackman, citizen of Barbados. Okay? Thank you very much. Thank you. There's a meeting on Saturday at 5 p.m. At Gordon Greenwich Primary School, where Eddie will be speaking to the broader constituency, and of course Chad will be speaking to the broader constituency, and I look forward to engaging as well with others. Thank you.